I don't think I really need to introduce Pokemon to anyone at all. Chances are you already know about Pokemon in some capacity. This new game, Pokemon Let's Go, however, has been met by some negativity by fans of the series. However, does the game actually suck, or is that just like a bunch of fans overreacting? Well, let's go take some time to check out the game and find out for ourselves. Pokemon Let's Go was one of those games that was met with a bunch of controversy between its fans since its official announcement. Fans were concerned that the game was removing key features and had no real effort behind it. Now, to an extent, it's kind of true, but I feel it's important to realize what the point of the game is. Now, I'm not saying that as a defense for the game at all. I could care less about defending the game. The point I'm trying to make is that I think it's important to review a game by what it's trying to accomplish. You wouldn't say Minecraft is a bad game due to the lack of story, since, that really isn't the focus by any means. So that begs the question, what exactly is the focus of Pokemon Let's Go? From what I've seen of the game, I believe the goal is to make a sort of bridge for casual fans of Pokemon Go and get them into regular Pokemon games. I can't really blame Game Freak for wanting to do this, considering how big of a success Pokemon Go was. However, this does mean simplifying a lot of things to make it more approachable for new players. I think, to an extent, this game does a pretty good job at being that bridge for new players, but it does come at an expense of the competitive scene. Let me be clear. If you are a huge fan of Pokemon and specifically love playing Pokemon for the competitive side of things, chances are you aren't gonna really be into this game that much. However, for myself and many other people out there, I don't really fuck with that side of the games at all. In fact, I just play the games because I enjoy Pokemon's mechanics and ideas. When I look at it as someone who doesn't really participate in the competitive side of things, I found the game to be pretty enjoyable. The focus on spending time with Eevee or Pikachu is really cute and pretty enjoyable. It's nice seeing Kanto again, in my opinion, and catching Pokemon is kinda fun too. To an extent. See, the motion controls can get kind of annoying, to the point I really prefer playing handheld. It's so much better. The problem is that you're trying to throw a Pokeball straight. It works fine when you're trying to do just that, but if you try to throw it to the left or to the right, it's really fucking janky. Sometimes it'll randomly throw way too much to the left, or sometimes it'll go the complete opposite direction. It just doesn't really work well enough to be reliable. Playing in handheld mode, though, is a lot better since you can aim and throw using just the buttons. But this does really confuse me too. The reason why it confuses me is, how do I put it? If you can make a control method, right, where I use the buttons just fine, why isn't it an option when my Switch is docked? That, and well, for a game that's trying to bridge the gap from Pokemon Go players to regular Pokemon, I find it weird it adapted that kind of style of catching without using the touchscreen controls Pokemon Go had. Game Freak seemed fine introducing control methods that only work for specific modes of play, so why not use the touchscreen the Switch had to replicate what Pokemon Go had? It would have been the most familiar control scheme to these new players. I'm not saying I would have used it because, again, I do prefer having buttons, but if your mission with this game was to be the bridge, you probably should have replicated it a bit closer, maybe just as an option. The game also doesn't really seem to have much of a post-game. Once you beat the Pokemon League, it seems like the most you can do is start battling the Master Trainers, and that isn't really very fun in my opinion. The most you'd want to do is battle Blue, Red, and green, I guess, and maybe rebattle some other trainers like the gym leaders. There are some things here and there that's kind of nice, but most of the experience that the game does well is tied to parts of the experience that cater to making it cute or making it, I don't know, I guess kind of cool. For example, I love having it so that my Pokemon follow me around. And I also love the idea of having Pokemon appear in the overworld instead of having random encounters. Both of those features are things I actually really enjoy about the game. There is one feature, however, that I find myself kind of going back and forth about whether or not I fully enjoy it, and that's the co-op. See, the co-op is pretty cool overall. Having another player there is nice, and I think it can be done really well. But the issue is, the mode makes an already easy series of games into an even easier experience. And look, I typically don't mind a game going either way. I can enjoy an easy game just as much as enjoy a game that is difficult. However, the co-op makes it so easy to the point where it doesn't even feel like I'm really playing the game anymore. Just kind of going through the motions and not really playing it, if that kind of makes sense. I did enjoy my time with the game though. I want to make that clear. The music is still really good, the game's presentation is fantastic in my opinion, and all the little touches to make you connect with your Pokemon more is really appreciated. It feels almost like the priority in this game wasn't in the usual competitive aspect of Pokemon, but rather the act of bonding with your Pokemon, and that's okay. That might actually fit the more casual demographic they were clearly aiming for. But keep this in mind. This review is how I personally feel, not the feelings of a hardcore competitive fan or the feelings of a casual fan who came in with Pokemon Go. So, my experience overall is that I enjoyed the game, but probably not as much as a more hardcore Pokemon game. Typically, I tend to just play the main game and any post-game that I personally find interesting, and that's when I tend to stop playing a Pokemon game. And that hasn't really changed with Pokemon Let's Go. I think it's fair I give this game a 7 out of 10. It's enjoyable for some of the cute little bonding scenes and some of its ideas that I honestly would like to see more in future games, like the overworld Pokemon integration, but the janky motion controls and certain specific design choices make the game just not as enjoyable as past Pokemon games, I feel. But that's basically it for this video. And I understand why many people might disagree with my views on the game, since I don't really rail on the game that much. I don't really think it deserves all the hate it got. But at the same time, I didn't really totally defend it from the people who really hate this game either. I feel like some of the dislike is justified. Definitely not all of it though. Regardless, you guys should let me know how you feel about Pokemon Let's Go. Which version did you pick up and how do you feel about the game? Let me know in the comments and I'll see you guys in the next video.